The Lahey Hospital and Medical Center. My name is Brendan Riley from our security team. I also have the privilege of chairing our workplace violence prevention program. Welcome to our third annual White Ribbon Day ceremony today. And I just want to take a moment to thank all of you for being present and being seen on this critically important subject this morning with us. We have a number of elected officials who have taken their time to join us this morning, and we appreciate you. We also have great representation from our first responders community here. We have a number of folks from law enforcement, fire services, emergency medical services who also join us for this important effort every year. We have folks from Beth Israel Lahey Health who've traveled from their organizations to join us this morning, and our Lahey colleagues. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We have a great speaking program that we're going to get right into, and it's just my honor to introduce our leader, our president of Lahey Hospital and Medical Center, Dr. Susan Moffett-Bruce.
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you, Brendan, and thank you for coming together today in community around something that's just so important to each and every one of us. This is now a year that I've been at Lahey, and this was the first event that I spoke at this time last year, and I knew it was a special place, probably because of that event that started my year-long journey here. So thank you, Brendan, to continuing this tradition. Whilst I'm new to Lahey, I am not new to the White Ribbon Day, and it's very familiar to me because it started in my home country of Canada. Let me tell you a little bit about it. So the White Ribbon campaign was started in 1991 by a group of Canadian men, 2 years after a devastating event referred to as le terri de l'école polytechnique, also known as the Montreal massacre, an anti-feminist mass shooting that occurred on December the 6th at l'École Polytechnique in Montreal, Quebec, where 14 women were murdered and another 10 women were injured, as well as 4 men. The assailant entered the Université Montréal, the mechanical engineering classroom, and instructed the men to leave. He then shot all the women in the room and then walked through the corridors and classrooms targeting women until he took his own life. This event shook our nation. I was at McGill in Montreal on that day in 1989 studying for my own exams, and it will stay with me for a lifetime. And so today, I wear the white ribbon, and the White Ribbon campaign is a worldwide campaign in over 60 countries. The Massachusetts White Ribbon Day campaign is sponsored by Jane Doe Inc. and the Massachusetts Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence. While the Massachusetts White Ribbon Day campaign is an annual day of recognition, it is critical that we remember this every day. That we think about what our role is in stopping violence against women and all gender-based violence. For us as healthcare professionals, first responders, leaders, it is our role every day. As caregivers in particular, we often ask a question when we see patients: do you feel safe? Do you feel safe? A simple question that makes all the difference in the world. And so this opens a dialogue, and we hope to continue that dialogue as we go forward. So today, we will take the White Ribbon Day pledge together to make a commitment to a part of the solution to ending this violence, and we will wear white ribbons as a sign of our commitment today and going forward. This is a commitment we all make. No one should be afraid. I should not be afraid. As a mother of 2 young women and the president of this fine and honorable institution, I am humbled to be here today in front of you. I find it hard. And I think we all have a role to end domestic violence and sexual assault against women and all gender-based violence. We must be part of the necessary and needed change. And on behalf of those that died in 1989, nous vous remercions de vous en souvenir. Thank you for remembering us. With that, I want to introduce Senator Fredman, who has taken up her time to come here today. We thank you. We thank you for being with us. The Senator supports Safe Communities Act and other legislation that promotes equal rights and protections under the law for women, the LGBTQ+ community, and immigrants to Massachusetts. We are so lucky to have the Senator here today with us. And with that, I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Doctor, and thank you so much for that amazing introduction to why we're all here. I am Cindy Fredman, and I am the senator from North Middlesex, which includes the great town of Burlington, and I'm also the Senate Chair of Healthcare Financing. So we are responsible for all the healthcare bills that come, that get filed in the legislature. I am really proud to be here at Lahey Hospital today to recognize this day with all of you. As the chair of healthcare financing in Massachusetts, I know all too well about the rise in workplace violence, abuse, harassment in hospitals and healthcare settings, with many of these acts against workers in fields predominantly made up of women. Gender-based violence is never okay. Not at home, not in public, and certainly not in the workplace, especially where people are taking care of others. Every employee has the right to work in a safe environment, and employers need to continue to put measures in place to prevent gender-based violence in the workplace and ensure that no employee has to experience it. We should use White Ribbon Day to continue to grow awareness around gender-based violence, especially men's violence against women, and do our part by speaking out against the attitudes and behavior that promote these horrible actions. We must stand up for the victims of sexual assault and domestic violence, ensuring that they are safe, protected, and validated when they seek assistance from those crimes. The White Ribbon Campaign spreads awareness around the need for men and boys to take action and be responsible and to put an end towards gender-based violence. And it's great to see this work in this community. We all must be a part of it. And I want to take a moment to really acknowledge Burlington for all the work that they have done to address this issue, to put their money where their mouth is, as we like to say, to have such a coordinated program across all of their departments, and to have people who are really committed to ending this, because that really makes a difference when we all work together. Lahey Hospital is taking a clear stand against gender-based and workplace violence. Thank you for this important work as we look to expand the reach and impact around White Ribbon Day in Massachusetts. And I also like to say, we know that there is a bill in the legislature, in the House right now, that is there to address workplace violence, especially in healthcare. And we in the Senate are committed to moving that bill out so that there's more protections for all of you who are doing this work that we so desperately need you to do. So thank you for having me here, and thank you for acknowledging this very important issue.
Thank you so much, Senator. And here at Lahey, we are nothing short of blessed to have such a strong partnership with our local police department. And here this morning is Detective Britney Saini, who is the leader of the domestic violence unit. I want to invite Britney up to speak to us. Thank you for being
here. Good morning. Thank you for having me. My name is Britney Saini, and I'm the detective with the Burlington Police Department. I currently investigate all domestic violence and sexual assault cases. As you can imagine, many of my cases involve violence and some level of abuse. I find that the most crucial time to intervene is within that first 24 hours after that first call for service comes in. The reason being is the victim had the courage on this day to call. And in my experience, this isn't the first incident of abuse for this individual. Providing them with immediate resources and options makes the decision to pursue a life separate from the abuser a little bit easier to comprehend. A lot of the victims I've worked with are afraid to be away from their abuser for many different reasons. Some are finances, lack of support with friends and family in the area. Some might be just because the children are involved. In other, it's just pure fear. So I'd like to take a moment to walk you through a case that was handled a couple months ago in our department. A midnight shift call comes in for service. It's a domestic in progress. As our patrol officers arrive on scene, they realize there's significant physical injury involved. At that time, the Burlington Fire Department intervenes and provides that immediate care and transport to Lahey Hospital. This is where Lahey Hospital steps in and continues that care until that patient is discharged. The next day, there's a follow-up investigation that takes place. That's where my role comes in. I need to provide those immediate resources and support for this victim. During the night, there was an emergency restraining order that was put in place with an on-call judge. That restraining order does expire that day. So if that victim doesn't go down to the Woburn District Court to extend that restraining order, it no longer exists. So as you can imagine, the stress and the pressure and the fear that is put on that victim within those first 24 hours, the last thing they probably want to do is go spend the day at Woburn District Court. So it's my job to advise, provide those resources, support, and give this person some glimpse of hope that they can change their life. So inevitably, I followed up over the phone. Something didn't feel right. I asked the victim if I could stop by the apartment. When I arrived there, she was visibly upset, and there was a lot to unpack. There's a long history of physical and sexual abuse that was going on in that home. This female was afraid for her life and the future for her children. So with the help of the school systems, the resources we have in place in our community, we were able to provide that person with temporary shelter for the time being for her and her 4 children. I'm happy to say I keep in touch with this victim. She has since moved out of state to live with family and also secured a job to provide for her children. The reason I bring this up is because it takes a village. I wouldn't have the opportunity to help the victims if they didn't have the positive interactions with the people who are reaching them first before I'm able to intervene. That being the first responders on scene, the community, our schools, our court systems, this very hospital, and all the outside resources we utilize on a daily basis. So, what more can we do? We have days like this. We bring awareness. We continue to bring awareness and promote prevention. We all want the same goal. We want to help people, we want people to feel heard, and we want people to feel safe. I look forward to what's to come for the community we serve on behalf of being part of the solution to end the violence. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you again, Britney, for sharing that story with us. So now's a good opportunity for us to just make mention of the fact that this hits so close to home for so many of us here in our community that I just wanted to take a moment to let everybody know that support is here, especially at the medical center. We have so many open doors for our colleagues. Our workforce is usually over 75% people identify as women, so this is really important. We have a great health and wellness team. We have an amazing employee health division here. We have a great spiritual care and chaplaincy program. We have a security leadership team here. We have our management here, our Lahey leadership group that are here for our colleagues who are impacted, and our human resources partners will be there for you. So thank you again for being here this morning. I do want to share some personal remarks with the group today, if I may. Oftentimes these events are primarily full of women in the audience, and that's different today, and I'm incredibly proud of that, because this is not a women's issue, okay? Because look at the confidence speakers today, between Susan, Cindy, and Britney. If they could be the solution for gender-based violence, we wouldn't have today. All right, this is a community issue, but most of all, it's a men's issue. And I'm not talking about the perpetrators of violence. I'm talking about the gentlemen in this room today. Good men will be the only solution for permanently ending this epidemic of gender-based violence, in particular violence against women. And why is this so pervasive and still epidemic, even in a town like Burlington and in every community across the world? We have to unpack that, and we have to be intentional about it. And I'll share with the group today what that means to me. It starts so young. You know, and I'm not a political person, and some people rage against this term of toxic masculinity. You don't need to call that, but you have to acknowledge that it exists and how destructive it is. Think about it, when young children, all of 4 or 5 years old, come into a healthcare setting for a vaccine, and they're going to be receiving an injection. Is that experience different for young girls and young boys? Oftentimes the support is there for the little girls. We know that injections hurt, especially when you're a young child. Okay, so the support is there. We let the little girls experience that it's going to be painful, and we're going to comfort you and get you through this. All right? But what about little boys? What if a little boy starts crying? Even good people like us, you know, be brave, be tough, be a man. Is a 4-year-old boy a man? Or is that a child? So it really starts there, and I've been there. Many of us been there as parents. You know, but we have to be more intentional about the destructive impact of that type of mindset with our little boys, and how that conditions them not to experience normal emotions like the pain of an injection, and not to have the same type of support, and how that impacts. Okay, and I'll share experience when I was a young boy, when I became a young student athlete. I was a real shy little kid, and sports really just lifted me up. But it was the first time that I was really exposed to this pervasive, corrosive culture of minimizing and marginalizing girls and women, objectifying, sexualizing girls and women by people who I know were good men and good parents. But generation after generation after generation was indoctrinated into this culture where that starts with just the joking, and that becomes acceptable, all the way up to and including, and you know what I'm talking about, boys will be boys. And when we say that, what we're doing is two harmful things. Okay? Number one, we're minimizing the harm that bad behavior has caused. And number two, we're letting the person who's caused the harm off the hook, not to be accountable, and most importantly, not to learn from that experience. And that happened to me and many young men that I played sports with. And again, there were no bad intentions. It was an unconscious thing. It was the rites of passage. But serving as the captain of my college football team, I saw how that manifests. Again, totally unintentionally. Where these young men, again, were so quick to objectify and sexualize women, and to let ourselves off the hook for that behavior. Boys will be boys was then replaced, well, I just had too much alcohol to drink. I'm a good guy. It was the alcohol. So we minimize the harm that was done, and we don't hold ourselves accountable, and most of all, we don't learn from that experience. All right, and I was a good Catholic school boy, so it caught up to me at some point in college. I said, I can't be engaged with this. This is against my moral compass. So I chose to retreat into the corner of the locker room when this talk would occur, or when these actions occurred at parties. I would be out of there, and I thought, okay, I'm making the good moral decision here not to be engaged in this conduct. However, you know, growing up and getting wiser, I look back with so much regret. And healthcare folks, you know what Quint Studer said, what you permit, you promote. And I look back with so much regret through the benefit of hindsight that what I permitted, I promoted, regardless of whether or not how engaged I was in it. But I can't get in a time machine and go back. So what I've chose to do is, for now over 15 years, I wear the white ribbon on my lapel every day. This is an everyday pledge that I take. Every day you get to re-earn your reputation. So that's why I choose to be so engaged in this work. But we need to be intentional. Again, for caregivers who have told that little boy to be brave, to be tough, to be a man, these are great people. What they're doing is unconscious. We have to be more intentional about that. We have to hold young boys accountable. Most of all, we have to have people like us modeling the way for what is the acceptable behavior. Do not socialize that minimizing and objectifying of girls and women, because it becomes so pervasive later in life. To me, that's what the solution has to be, and it starts with us. Show of hands here, who has young people in your life that you hold influence over? All right, thank you. So we have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity, just like the justice system does. It's most of all about learning and preventing future behavior. That should be the lens that we look through this moving forward. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to share some personal perspective. The most important part of our ceremony today is going to be taking the pledge together as a community. But before we do so, I just want to take one more opportunity here to thank today's speakers. So thank you, Susan, Cindy, and Brittany again. Let's hear it. Okay, so again, it's not about just being present, it's about being seen this morning, so I'm going to ask everybody to please rise. So the White Ribbon Day Pledge is here. I'll say it before we say it together as a community. From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution in ending violence against women and all gender-based violence. All right, so please join me by raising your right hand. Ready? From this day forward, I promise to be part of the solution for ending violence against women and all gender-based violence. Thank you, everybody. Now let's go make those words actions every day. That concludes our ceremony. We've got the space till 10, so you're welcome to stay.